he absolutely came out and condemned and said that there is no place for any comments like that in the Republican Party.
J.D. Vance said he's going to warn his kids so some quote-unquote scumbag doesn't leak a group chat in a similar way. He was implying the person who leaked the group chat was a scumbag. J.D. Vance has had the farthest thing from moral clarity this entire time. And listen, do you know who Paul Ingrassia is?
Sure.
Do you know who Paul Ingrassia is?
Yeah, we've debated it.
Do you know what? Okay, so do you know what Paul Ingrassia said?
Yeah, we've debated
that he has a Nazi streak. Oh, you've debated it, but has Trump fired him or is he still a part of the administration?
I don't know where he is right now.
He's a part of the administration, and you know that. You're lying right now. You know that he is a part of the administration. He is still there, and he said he, quote, has a Nazi streak. So you can sit there and play coy, but you are not having the clarity that you are talking about right now. Do you condemn Paul Ingrassia?
I certainly condemn anything.
Should Trump fire Paul Ingrassia?
Approximating having a Nazi streak.
Yeah, you said J.D. Vance, his opinion is important. He has had no moral clarity about any of this division whatsoever. He refused to condemn the Young Republican group chat when it came out a few months ago. They were talking about gas chambers. He's refused to condemn Paul Ingrassia. He's refused to directly combat the Groyper movement growing. I just think it's my entire life, Republicans have been targeting minority group after minority group. Conservatives have been getting rich and gaining power off of this, targeting immigrants, targeting LGBTQ people, women, it's been Somalis, Haitians, but the second that certain MAGA commentators are now the subject of this exact type of bigotry, they have a stunning amount of moral clarity about it. Vivek Ramaswamy only had moral clarity when anti-Indian American hatred was being spread. Republican Representative Randy Fine has a lot of moral clarity about bigotry when it's against him, but the way that he talks about Zohran Mamdani, the way he talks about Ilhan Omar is incredibly contradictory. You can't just stop bigotry from entering your movement when it's hitting you. You have to stop it at the door. This is not courageous for people to speak out. It is self-preservation at this point.
You brought up Mamdani. Do you believe that Mamdani has shown any moral clarity when it comes to Israel and the attacks on
Jews? The day
Jews?
after he was elected, there was a swastika. Let me finish. There was a swastika drawn on a window, and he immediately tweeted out and condemned it. There is no equivocation between the way. There is no equivalent between the way Zohran and J.D. Vance have conducted themselves.
So today,
do you think J.D. Vance should condemn Nick Fuentes? Should J.D. Vance condemn the Groypers?
He has. He told him he could eat SHIT. That's
not on stage. He didn't do it on stage.
Presumption of innocence until we have some evidence that someone is guilty through the process of the courts.
It's uniquely important to Donald Trump now that there's a presumption of innocence, but he's willing to proactively say that people like Schiff, people like Letitia James are guilty. Now it's very, very important that we're super careful about what photos we're releasing. I just find it really convenient that Donald Trump is now so worried about this.
Well, I go back to the point I made earlier, is that you just tried to re-inject politics in this. You have to separate these two things. There are peoples whose lives are impacted here.
I'll start to separate it when Trump separates it.
Well, be the leader and show them the way.
I'm a 23-year-old. He's the president.
This is the.
You're telling Adam.
That's Adam's go-to.
Wait.
I believe
you guys go to his point of view more than Adam.
You make a difference.
He's not wrong. I mean, one of these two is the president.
The president of the United States.
Maybe Adam will be a future president. Who knows?
Mockler's whole point was that MAGA only cares about racism if it affects them personally. So when he asked Scott Jennings if he would condemn Nick Fuentes, if J.D. Vance would condemn him, Jennings responded with, he already did. He told him to eat SHIT. Do you know when he did that? He did that when he found out that Nick Fuentes was talking smack about his Indian wife, therefore proving Adam Mockler's point directly. This is exactly what he was saying. You guys only care about racism and moral issues when it affects you personally. And Scott Jennings, the one who's supposedly defending MAGA, is the one who proved Adam Mockler right. Look, this is the state of this movement. A 23-year-old can go on CNN and destroy these people with simple facts, simple logic, and an articulate framing. That's all it takes. And he's making these people look like idiots and the clowns that they are. Props to Adam Mockler. I think he's a great person in the movement at the moment. He's done some great work, at the Trump rallies back in the day, and now with his YouTube channel. And now that CNN is having him on, I think it's a breath of fresh air. Finally, an intelligent person is going on there and putting MAGA in their place, because very few times do we get to actually hear articulate, intelligent arguments against MAGA when they do these panels with like 5 or 6 people. It's usually just a cluster of, a shit show, and like everyone's talking over each other and people are just blah, 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 blah. But Adam Mockler is actually, I think, in a good place over there. Mike, what did you think?
I think he handled it pretty well. It reminds me a lot of Zohran Mamdani's sort of rhetoric when it comes to staying focused on the issues. I think he does a great job of not taking any bait from this right-leaning commentator. And I think that there's a couple lines in there that I think stood out to me. I think when he said it's not courageous, it's self-preservation when you wait until it actually affects you to say something, because every time we see this happen, the right will stand up and say, hold on, we should condemn this. We don't support this. Look, this is bad. Nick Fuentes, he's an anti-Semite, but Nick Fuentes has been growing in that movement for years, and they haven't said a word. And now that it's sort of coming back to haunt them, now they're taking a stand about it. Candace Owens, she's been growing and growing and growing in the Republicans movement for years. And now that she's, turning on them and sort of, eating them from the inside with this Charlie Kirk conspiracy stuff, and is creating division there. Now they say, whoa, Candace Owens is unhinged, and Tucker Carlson is another one. So it's just again and again and again, there's all these examples where it's not a problem at all for them to spout these, dangerous, divisive rhetoric. But the moment it gets internalized and those teeth are turned towards the Republicans themselves, now they go, hold on, wait a minute. Why would anybody support these people? So I think Adam did a great job of clearly identifying it. It's not courageous when you stand up and speak out about it now. You should have been speaking out about it when everybody else was years ago when this started, but you're only coming around to it now. And it's only out of self-preservation. And this also reminds me of a lot of people who were Trump supporters that have turned on Trump, and they'll say, look, I don't like what he did with Rob Reiner, that post. That was the line for me. And it's like, okay, it's good that you're on board now, but like, what about all the other madness and division and hatred and violence that he stoked? You had no problem with all of that. But now that it's, a director that you liked or something, it's just very, it's a little too late. But at the same time, on a personal note, I feel like we have to learn to accept people, especially if they've been duped and whatnot. But my point is that Adam just nails it here. I think another really great line from him as well is when they said, like, hey, why are you making it political? Don't make it political. Don't do that. What are you doing? And then he says, hey, I'll do it until Trump stops. If Trump stops, then I'll stop. And they said, whoa, why don't you be a leader? Like, why don't you set the example? Why do you have to wait on Trump? You should set the example. And his response is, I'm 23. He's the president. And I think that's a perfect response to this kind of gaslighting, where it's always our responsibility to explain ourselves and to defend ourselves and to poke holes in what the Republicans are saying, when the reality is they could be doing it themselves. The Republicans could be speaking out about things that are obviously atrocious, but they don't. Instead, they want the left to do it. And what's funny is they often demonize the left for doing it, but then they say, "What? Even though they demonize and make it all political, then they turn around and say, hey, why are you making it political? You should rise above, blah, blah, blah." And so I think this is just another very clear-cut problem with Trump being in politics. And we saw this back in 2015 when he started running for president the first time around, where he makes it about the ratings. He makes, he's the first person, I think, that just like openly trash talk candidates on stage at these debates. Up until then, I think it was generally pretty respectful, and there would be jabs, but they were always like policy based. They were never based on like looks or anything like that, or marital situations. So to have all of that kind of, building from then on again, which should have been called out very early on, but now, 10 years later, here we are trying to say, oh, well, maybe our political rhetoric is too divided, and it's too late at that point. So I think Adam nailed it, saying, I'll do it when Trump does it, because if he's going to set the standard, he needs to lead. We can't excuse Trump and just allow him not to lead. He is the leader, and we can't give him an exception because he's the president. He's the leader of the free world. His opinion matters whether you like it or not. So when he says things, it carries weight. And I think if you're going to hold a 23-year-old accountable on CNN in a panel where people are just talking, why not hold the man accountable who has all the power?
Yeah, I think you made some great points there. One I wanted to touch on again is you mentioned Nick Fuentes growing in the right and growing over the past years. Kyle Kulinski makes this great point. He says, look, Nick Fuentes has just taken the hateful movement of MAGA, which is hate on every group, and he just added one more, and that's Jews. And that was a bridge too far. And that is why Nick Fuentes is now becoming an outcast within the MAGA movement, because he added the one group you're not supposed to. They're fine hating on women. They're fine hating on gays. They're fine hating on minority groups and other races, black people, brown people, people from other countries. That's all fair game. The moment you touch Jews, though, which Nick Fuentes did, that's too much, too far. Why? Because, well, we all know the grip that Israel has on the Republican Party. I mean, look at what Miriam Adelson is doing with Trump in Israel, how America is just giving them everything they want, helping them, with the situation in Gaza, helping them annex the West Bank. It's going on. They want to build resorts over there, over the rubble. I mean, it's crazy, the place we're at. And that is why Nick Fuentes is now an outcast within MAGA, because he touched the one group that you're not allowed to and not supposed to.